Some people think that a World Championships is rinse and repeat, the same thing every year, but this is a brand new challenge. Totally different species, totally different size of fish. Last year we were catching small catfish, odd bonus crassio, maybe 100 grams maximum. That's going to be a tiny fish for this year's venue. We're looking at fish up to 1 kilo in weight, sometimes some bonus catfish too, maybe 2 or 3 kilos in weight.
We learned a lot last year in Serbia. It was really interesting. I came away with loads of things added to my experience. You can forget all that for Spain. It's completely different. The tactics we're going to use, they couldn't be more different, chalk and cheese. So it was a great experience. The temperament, the attitude, everything like that, we'll take that into Spain.
You keep the fundamentals rolling forward, things that you've learned over the years, over the campaigns, because ultimately it's a feeder fishing match. But the intricacies that are brought from a new venue, especially the one that we're visiting in Spain, new species, new styles. We have an array of equipment that we build up over the campaign that we've had over the last 12 or 13 years, and we're going to try and pick elements of that for this World Championships.
Every World Champs is totally different. The climate's different, it's very hot, and the species are different. They respond differently due to the heat. This year's World Champions in particular, it's in Spain. We're going to be fishing for crassio, a fish we haven't got in the UK, and the weights could be ridiculous. Obviously, we've just been on that practice week. There were 5 or 6 other teams there as well, off their own back. So paying their own expenses because they know how important it is to find out about the venue, find out about what species, get used to the climate, get the logistics in place. So obviously bait's going to be sorted when you get there, just to get that little bit ahead because everyone's catching up. The standard is quite frankly ridiculous now. Everyone's fast. So we've got to stay ahead of the pack, and the way is to be that little bit better and do things that little bit more purposefully.
We've already visited this venue and it's like nothing we've ever seen before. If the practice match that we went on is anything to go by, this is probably going to see us catch more fish than we've probably caught combined in the previous 12 or 13 years World Championships. But you never know, and that is the interesting thing about these international events. You have to be prepared for all eventualities.
Beefy tackle is the name of the game. Like I say, we're catching big fish on this venue. We need to gear up accordingly. Strong lines, 016, 018 hook lengths, size 14, 12 hooks. Last year we were talking size 18 hooks, maybe even going to a 16 if the fishing was good. That's well out of order this year. We need stronger gear to catch these big weights of fish.
They're coming in numbers, they're getting very, very hard to catch. We're getting lots of signs, we've got to work out the tactic. We're feeding more, we're feeding less. It seemed like we needed to feed a lot at some time to get them in the peg. Once they're in the peg, cut the feed out and actually catch the fish. We're not there to feed them, we're there to catch them. So that was a massive, massive learning curve for us.
Although you're focused very much on the World Champs and getting the tactics right and getting your head around how each species feed and the tactics that you're going to use, it's just lovely to visit different countries, see the cultures and the different foods and the road trip to get there as well. So it's nice to go there and embrace the whole thing as well as it just being the World Champs as well.
Like all World Championships, we need to get there. Spain, although it's a little bit closer than Serbia, it's still 2 days driving. We're actually going on the ferry this time, so we're going to have a night on the ferry, then 6-hour drive down to the venue. We've got to deal with different climates, different ways of living, different time zones. It's all a big challenge.
So we are on the final leg of the journey, Robert, aren't we? Spain's always very wild, I think. Sunny Spain. We've got sunshine and showers. A lot of rain so far. A lot of rain, a lot of high winds. Hopefully when we get there we've got a week of beautiful sunshine ahead of us and we catch loads and loads of fish. I think that's a good possibility. I love looking at the rivers, when we go over. Everyone you look at looks really wild. You think, love to catch a big catfish or a wild carp in that river.
Every river looks full of fish as well. It looks beautiful.
Yeah,
It does.
Untouched water though, isn't there? The banks is a lot of unaccessible stuff. If you had a boat, you'd have the right time, wouldn't you? You would.
You're in charge of sat nav. How long have we got to
I'm
go?
in charge of sat nav. We have got about 100 miles left to go. So we're going to arrive, going to have a look at the venue, because we were there a week or so ago, or 3 weeks ago, and it was very coloured. As the colour dropped out, fingers crossed.
Look at beautiful valley.
Yeah, look, there you go. This is the sort of scenic routes that we're passing. Absolutely, utterly beautiful. So, we'll see you for a first look on the bank.
We're here at the venue for the 2024 Feeder World Championships, and what a venue it is, the River Guadiana. This venue is situated in the southwest region of Spain. In fact, we're only 70 kilometres from the Portuguese border, in a lovely place called Merida. Now this year, the Feeder World Championship sees 21 teams competing. Each team is made up of 5 anglers. Now you may have seen from last year's film in Serbia that the squad, actually consists of 6 anglers. It's then Dean Barlow, the England feeder team manager's difficult decision to choose 5 anglers out of those 6. Now the word on the bank this year from the majority of teams, including the England team, is that this event could be the best Feeder World Championships ever. The venue for this year's championship really does hold a lot of fish, a lot of carp, different strains of carp, but lots of them, and also catfish. These 2 species will be the main fish that the teams are targeting all through this year's championship. There's also some surprise fish in the river. There's some big barbel and some very big carp. There's also some very big catfish, but they very rarely come out in matches. Then of course you have some showcase fish. They're almost ornamental style, beautiful colours, gold, orange, blacks, all mixed in. You really don't know what you're going to catch every time you get a bite. Just like last year, Dean Barlow has gone with the exact same squad. So the 6 anglers chosen for Spain this year are Adam Wakelin, Steve Ringer, Rob Wootton, Will Freeman, Mick Viles and Lee Kerry. You then have a very experienced backroom staff. Jamie Harrison, the assistant manager for Dean, and then you have Graham West and Rich Wilson, 2 fantastic match anglers in their own right. The backroom staff are the vital link between what's happening on the riverbank, feeding it back to Dean Barlow so that he can make those tactical decisions. And that can be something as simple as maybe changing your hook bait from 2 to 3 maggots, casting 10 yards further, 10 yards shorter, or even just dropping down in feeder size. And if that information isn't passed back to Dean in real time, the difference between 10 and 15 minutes in a competition of this magnitude could mean everything. This year's Feeder World Championships is actually spread over about 5 kilometres. Now it's not one continuous match length because certain areas have not been pegged, maybe due to a big bay, an island in the river or a main road bridge. So these areas have been missed out. Over the 5 practice days, each team is allocated a box. Within this box, all your anglers fish and practice from each day. Each day, the anglers will fish different areas of the river along the full match length. They will stay within the confines of their box, but this allows them to try different tactics at different parts of the river to scope out what actually works in that given area, or most importantly, what doesn't work. With this being the Feeder World Championships, you're only allowed natural baits. So you'll see on the anglers' bait trays, baits like sweet corn, maggots, casters, worms, maybe bloodworm and joker, although we don't think this venue lends itself to bloodworm and joker. Now sourcing the bait is a task in itself, and we'll actually let the backroom staff run you through what they go through every morning to make sure that bait is in pristine condition for the team to start practicing and match fishing with. Early starts are the nature of the game at international level fishing, even the practice matches. The team want to replicate the actual match fishing times of the 2-day main event. This means ground baits and liquidised corn are being whisked up in the hotel car park even before sunrise. Whilst the backroom staff role is constantly demanding, collecting and preparing all of the live bait. Now we must give a huge shout out to Angel from the local tackle shop, Romera Pesca, for the formidable task of supplying most of the 21 teams with fresh bait on a daily basis. The bait was always of a high standard and the tackle shop was fully stocked with everything else you could need. The river early in the morning really is a beautiful sight and the bankside was just full of nervous excitement. Having fresh bait in any match is really important and of course none more so than a World Championships. This year however in Spain the team have been met with a few challenges. The easiest way to explain it is we'll go and speak to the backroom staff and just see what these challenges have been. Morning Rich, so it's a new World Championships and obviously a new challenge regarding the bait. Do you want to just run us through what's been going on?
Yeah, morning Paul. Like you say, different venue, different conditions, different baits this year, all as its challenges. Most people at home are used to, you finish your day's fishing, you stick your bait in your fridge, you forget about it, you go back next day. We ain't got that option, there's no fridges, there's nothing. We're creating as much shade as we can at bank. Luckily we've got a big massive gazebo that's come in, unbelievable. You know, we can create shade where there's no shade. And as keeping bait, under cars, moving it, in room, in bath. You know, it's all challenges that you just got to get over it and get done and best we can. We're limited to getting fresh bait each day. We can't choose what bait we get. Whatever's in our bag, our allocated bag each day, that's what we get. You know, there's no going in and saying I'll have them maggots, these maggots. Some days they're small, some days they're big, some days they look old. Yeah, it's a little bit different. We're still keeping his bloodworm. We don't know whether it's needed, toughened, come into play. We're catching different fish. Every day is different. We don't know what to expect.
So you're having to cover all bases.
Yeah.
Well, I know the team will appreciate it ever so much, mate, but I know it's not long before they're going to start, so thanks
we've
for
got
that.
it all to the shirt.
Brilliant. I'll let you crack on.
I'm going to crack on.
The 5 official practice days are hugely strategic in developing tactics. The anglers will be exploring the riverbed to see if they're fishing over gravel, silt or even weed. They'll also be looking for any changes in the depth and whether there are any steep shelves or drop-offs, as these are where the bigger fish, the bonus fish, feel comfortable around. They'll also be keeping in mind the flow in the river and if that flow should change if it has an effect with the fishing. The anglers will also constantly be changing baits to see if any single bait performs better than others. And if there is a standout bait, is it best to fish a single or multiple of this bait to catch a bigger fish? At the end of the practice, it was time to get cleaned up and head to the opening ceremony in Merida. A city steeped in history and even has its own Roman theatre open after 2,000 years. It's always great to see the different teams, some old friends, and be in the presence of some of the best feeder anglers in the world. Now, from the outset of this competition, a sickness bug has been passing through the anglers of most of the competing teams, with some even too ill to practice. But international fishing waits for nobody, and as the famous saying goes, the show must go on. This is a great opportunity to capture Walter Lenz. Now Walter is he's the manager, he's the coach, he's a lot of things for the Belgium national team. So he's just agreed just to tell us a little bit about his views on this actual venue. So Walter, what do we think to this as a World Championship venue?
I think one word, brilliant. I've seen a lot of World Championship before, but the amount of fish that is here on this Guadiana River, it's unbelievable. I've never seen it before.
And are your team feeling confident? Have you nearly got the method sorted?
I think we have it sorted, but to be honest, our specialty is bream fishing. So the speed on the Carassios is not like the English team, but we will get there.
That's fantastic. Well, of course, as always, we wish you all the best. Not that much that you beat us, but we wish you all the best.
All the luck for your team too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's halfway through day 4, and we're just catching up with Dean Barlow just to quickly see how the sport is, if it was as good as yesterday. Dean, is the sport as good as yesterday?
The sport is still pretty good, Steve, but nowhere near as good as yesterday. It seems as though the river's turned off a little bit. There's still fish to be caught, but not in the numbers like there was yesterday.
Is this because the wind has dropped, the sun's come out, even brighter than yesterday?
We're unsure, but it's had this is the 4th day of continuous practice, so that might have something to do with it. But we are in a different area compared to it was yesterday. But the eyes on the bank are telling us that where we was pegged yesterday, the sport isn't the same there, but it is starting to pick up. It seems like, just like match fishing back at home, the later hours seem to be the best.
Brilliant. So obviously angling pressure does have something to do with fishing, we know that. So we're thinking going into the last hour, you're expecting the sport to pick up here as well?
I'm hoping so, yeah, because you can have a slow start, but you really need a strong finish.
Brilliant. Well, we won't keep you any longer, Dean. I know how busy you are with the boys, so thanks, mate.
No problem. Cheers.
So that's it, the end of day 4. That's 4 practice days that the team have gone through. We're going to speak with Rob Wootton now just to see exactly where he's feeling that the team are, and just if he can tell us anything about this cracking venue. So, Rob, tell us today, how's today gone day 4? I know you've had nearly 28 kilos. What have you learned?
Well, first of all, you're right, it is an amazing venue. There's fish all along the whole length, but obviously because we're focusing, sitting here fishing, obviously our backroom staff, they're going around looking at other teams. So not too sure what other teams are catching along the length, but I know that I think we're doing pretty well. I'm pretty confident that we're starting to form some sort of plan. Like I say, 27, a big 27 kilo, 28 kilo, I didn't quite watch the scales. Today, Carassio, I've had some nice carp as well. So maybe mixing the 2 species in certain areas of the match length is going to be important. Something that is important, and we talked about it off camera, is quiver tip choice.
Yes.
So obviously we're catching Carassio, we're catching a lot of Carassio from sort of 6 ounce up to £2 maybe. A £2 Carassio is a big Carassio, but the bites are very interesting because we're getting a lot of little indications, a lot of line bites, a few fish around the feeder, and you need to read the bites, and that's why we've got a really nice soft quiver tip here. This is 0.75 of an ounce. It means that it bends round with any toe and it just holds there, and then we can read the little indications as that tip moves when there's a fish around your feeder, and then obviously when you get a proper bite, it rocks away with a Carassio. Carassio doesn't generally run off. It sort of rocks away like a really nice positive bream bite. What we are getting a lot of though, and we're nicknaming them brick bites, because Steve, it's as if you've tied a brick to your line, threw it into the water, and your quiver tip has followed it. The bites are that violent, ridiculously violent brick bites. Doesn't matter what quiver tip you've got on for those, they're generally the carp, or there's even some F1 type fish in here as well, and they're bonuses, 2 kilo and upwards. But like I say, nice soft quiver tip for the Carassio, doesn't matter what you've got on for a brick bite.
Fantastic, thanks Rob.
Well, despite the fact I've had 27 kilos, 50 odd pound, and we've caught loads of fish, you won't believe how technical it is. It's really tricky. And there's quite a depth of water, 10 to 15 foot we've been fishing today. And I believe that all these Carassios are up in the water, and control is the word I'm going to use. And what I mean by that is that the amount of squeeze that you put on your feeder and the moisture content in your ground bait is critical. It's beyond critical. If you don't get that right, you can't catch. The fish are there, and you can just adjust a little thing. Sometimes it just means putting slightly heavier feeder on, so it goes through the water different. And basically, you're controlling the fish up and down from the bottom, in my mind, up to 4 and 5 foot up. So a little, I mean, it don't just apply to here, but it applies to all types of fishing. How you squeeze your feeder, how you load your feeder is paramount. And that, I believe, will be a massive key to how we fare at the weekend.
So, like I say, 33 kilos, Steve, which has consisted of 74 Carassios. To be fair, quite a small stamp. today really all it's been about is being busy. So like I've been casting, keeping my eye on my watch, casting pretty much every 2 minutes. You might go 3 chucks without anything, then you might get 3 and 3 chucks. Another good thing is obviously just because we're talking about carp and crassios wild, you don't have to fish heavy for them. Using really soft rods, lines like 013s, 014s, not particularly big hooks, 14s, and it just seems to get you more bites.
Yeah, I've had a look at your tackle at the end, and it does look quite a light setup considering you're catching weights approaching 70, 80 pounds.
Balanced tackle. That's the best way to explain it.
It's interesting fishing, Steve, because we're not sure on what distance to fish. And when you're talking about distance, the best advice I can give has been regarding the feeders. So you have side-loaded feeders and bottom-weighted feeders with weights and rockets if you like. When you're using a rocket, they cast beautifully, they're really accurate, but they're not as controllable on the load as they are when you're fishing with a side-weighted feeder. So my advice is, I always think side-weighted feeders up to about 20 metres. Once you get past 20 metres, you get the benefits of the rocket. But if you can use a side-weighted feeder, you can load them to perfection every time, and that's what makes a difference. You can do it with a rocket, it's just not as flexible as a side loader. So that is one piece of advice that I would definitely give the guys at home, because choosing that right style of feeder will catch you more fish.
So I have Steve Ringer with me. Now, Steve's fished today and he's finished up with 24 kilos. Talking off camera, Steve felt he was a tiny bit off the pace today. Steve, what do you think? You're a little bit off the pace. Why do you think that happened today?
I think several reasons. Yesterday we caught in a 4 count, so I've tried to fish in a 4 count today, and it was the wrong depth earlier. The fish were in the deeper water, so I've wasted the first hour. I've corrected it by moving out, that was good, but then the fish have come in and I didn't have a line in the right depth when they came in. So it's not been a great day, as in 24 kilos disappointing, but I've learnt a lot. Should one of the lads draw along here, you're not going to make the mistake of starting in the wrong depth. Starting that slightly deeper water and then come into maybe the 4, even a 3 count, that's where the bigger fish are later on.
So I suppose really that's a prime example of what a practice day is all about. So regarding edges, give us a little tip, an edge that's helped you previous 3 days get you more bites.
I think the biggest edge for me here is your ground bait, getting it to come out the feeder quick. It's like the Carasio off bottom. You're not getting loads of indication, loads of liners. As soon as it starts to fade a little bit, plug in the feeder really lightly. So it's almost like you're going to lose a lot of your ground bait on impact. 2 or 3 quick chucks with a really light plug feeder, a bit of cloud, and they seem to come straight back.
Awesome. I know Mick Vile spoke a little bit about this as well. So regarding hooks as well, what sort of hooks have you been using through this campaign?
I've been fishing like a 14 pole special, 014 line. A slightly longer hook length, sort of 65, 70 centimetres seems better. Again, because I think the Carasio off bottom, I've noticed in the 4 days now we've fished, you're getting more quick bites and less borum on bites, as I like to call them. So it's obvious the Carasio off bottom, following the bait down, so a slightly longer hook length helps.
So you obviously, by knowing this information, you're obviously timing bites and timing casts.
Yeah, we've gone from, I think, like 3-minute cast maybe on Monday to sort of 90-second, 2-minute cast maximum now. And when you're not catching, you've actually got to be a little bit busier to try and get the swim going again.
Now, Will Freeman today has had 34 kilos, cracking net of fish, but in that net of fish, he's had some bigger carp. Will, how have you caught these bigger carp first of all?
Yeah, I've had a couple of carp and some really big Carasios just dropping onto a shorter line today. But the stamper fish has been quite good all the way through, just concentrating on bigger hook baits and things like that. But yeah, it was interesting on the short line because it's a little bit shallower than what we'd expect to catch in. And I think that's one of the reasons why there was carp there, and more so than the Carasio, which we're catching in the deeper water further out. So yeah, it's been an interesting day.
Have you fed a lot on this shorter line, or was it just a line that you thought, oh, I'll have a chuck on it now?
No, I've sort of fed it as though I'm fishing for Carasio on the further line, so taking it a little bit easier if anything. And I think it's just the nature of the peg being shallow, and it's a nice warm day. The fact that the carp have moved on it as well. Whether I'd have fed heavier and actually fished specifically for carp, might have caught a few more, but that's the Carasios, the bread and butter fish here, and that's what we're trying to sort out the most.
It does seem, I mean, watching down the line, it seems that at a certain time, 3 hours, 3.5 hours into the match, people are starting to catch short. Is this going to play a big part in the World Championship?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we fished the Merida Masters a few weeks ago on here, and every day it changed a little bit, and by the match days, all the fish were short. So down here we're on the bit that they actually fish the pole on, so where we're catching at 20 odd metres, they were catching at 10, 12 metres on the day, so I wouldn't rule it out anywhere. You know, we think the fish are going to be further out in a certain depth, but there's so many fish in this place, you can't rule anything out. And it wouldn't surprise me if you set up on the lines that you think you're going to set up on, and some continental's got something different in his head and just drops in short, and you have to quickly change your tack, which is what happened on the first day of the Merida Masters. I drew 4 pegs away from where I'd practiced, been no fish short, and within half an hour I'm up the bank scrambling for another rod. So yeah, don't rule it out. Don't rule it out. There's just too many fish in here to be too complacent on how you're going to catch.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Will.
No worries.
We've just finished the 5th and final day of practicing here at the 2024 World Championships, and we've bumped into Nicolas Barou, who is the InfoPesh main man. Now, you're very experienced on these sort of venues, World Championships, European Championships. Can you give us a tip who you think this year could be the favourite?
That's not really easy, but I would say, from my experience, on this style of fishing, with carasio, carps, few catfish, that the 2 main teams to watch this weekend will be England and definitely Hungary. I know them very well. I have been fishing there many, many times. It's their way of fishing. Carasio, carp, few catfish. Of course, there are few barbels too, but I don't think they will count on at the end of the day. But carp and carasio, they will be very good. And of course, England is always amongst the favorite because of the anglers. You have the top anglers in the world, so any kind of fishing, they can win the medal, the gold.
And of course, the French, outsiders or a little bit more than outsiders?
Well, on feeder techniques, the French has quite poor result in the last 13 years. Well, the 12 years, it's the 13th one. But they have good anglers and they are progressing because feeder fishing is more and more popular in France. In the last 5-10 years it's growing a lot, especially method feeder or normal cage feeder or things like that. So they are improving, and this style of fishing is quite good for us. We have in the team Olivier Zielinski, who won the Merida Master just 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
There was Tamás Walter from Hungary, there was Steve Ringer from England, but who won?
Very
A
good.
Frenchman, so be careful.
Very good, very good. Well, we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Not too much luck,
No.
but all the best anyway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. The end of 5 days intense training has finished. There are always challenges in World Championships and European Championships, and this year in Spain has been no different. Although this sickness bog only lasts for between 24 and 36 hours, it really does knock you off your feet. And it's understandable why some of the teams haven't fielded their full allocation of anglers during the practice days. The fishing, however, has been amazing, with multiple teams recording weights in excess of 100 pounds. That's 45 kilos. Now, although we had an idea of tactics as the team had previously visited this venue a fortnight ago, they've still changed, they've still evolved during this 5-day practice. It's clear that a few things make big differences, and that's depth of water, distances, and how you actually feed your bait through a feeder. As regard to the different depths, it's clear that you can't fish too close in because the water isn't as coloured as it was 2 weeks ago. Distances also play a big part. That's how far you're actually fishing, casting your feeder out. It would appear that if conditions are calm, so there's no ripple, no chop, those fish seem to sit further out into the river. Then there's the pressure, how you squeeze your ground bait into your feeder. It would appear that the team want the ground bait to break up 2/3 of the way down. So that bottom third, they want the ground bait to puff out, and this is drawing in those carassios because they're such an inquisitive feeder. When it comes to hook baits, the anglers have tried multiple hook baits, everything that they've had on their side tray at some point. But the standout bait has been the simple double maggot. The last 2 days' practice has also seen the England team sit next to, on the Thursday, the Netherlands, and then on the Friday, Hungary and Ireland. 3 brilliant teams, which has given us a great insight to just how our tactics are. And we feel we're really not far off the pace. Now, of course, after 5 days intense practicing comes the difficult decision that Dean Barlow has just made regarding who will be the 5 anglers that start tomorrow on Saturday for the Feeder World Championships. Now, this is obviously a really difficult decision, and of course one that Dean doesn't take lightly. However, he has chosen his team, and his team for this year, the starting team, is Will Freeman, Adam Wakelin, Steve Ringer, Lee Kerry and Rob Wootton. That leaves Mick Viles as the reserve. Now, of course, Mick Viles still plays a vital role within the team. We flew out 3 extra bank runners midweek, and 2 of those have already come down with this sickness bug. So Mick will be called upon even more than we first expected now. And with his experience, it's only going to stand the team in good stead. The match draw starts bright and early at 6:30 in the morning. The match anglers are then allowed into their box, their peg for the day, at 8 AM. At 10 to 10, there's a pre-baiting period before they start fishing at 10 o'clock. Now remember, this is a Feeder World Championship, so everything has to be fed through a feeder. You can't throw bait in or catapult in. It has to enter the water through some kind of feeder. So that's it. The hard work has been done. Is that practice going to pay off? Have we got tactics just right? Only time will tell. This is it, it's day 1. The draw has taken place this morning, first thing, back at the hotel. We've come down to the water's edge, the beautiful River Guadiana, just to go through where the anglers have actually drawn on their rotation today. Now, starting from the lower numbers to the higher numbers, we have Lee Kerry, who's drawn A17. He has France one side and Ukraine the other. B section, we have Rob Wootton, who's drawn peg 20, and he has Moldova one side and South Africa the other. C section, we have Steve Ringer on peg 7, and he has Slovakia one side and Germany the other. In D section, we have Will Freeman, who's drawn peg 11, and he has Germany one side and Kazakhstan the other. And finally, in E section, Adam Wakelin has drawn peg 14, and again he has Germany one side and Poland the other. Now, this venue is a very fair venue, well, at least on paper anyway. That is other than D section. D section is near a main road bridge. Now, Will Freeman's drawn this D section, and he is peg 11, so 10 pegs away from the main road bridge. The main road bridge is shallower, and that tends to hold bigger fish. And when you have anglers like Ramon Ansig drawn there today from Holland, Will's really got his work cut out. But Will is a brilliant angler, experienced, hopefully can pull it out when we need it. We're halfway through day 1. Now, obviously, we're keeping noise to a minimum because we are right on the riverbank. We've caught up with Jamie Harrison, the assistant team manager, and Jamie's agreed to just run us through where he thinks the team are at the moment. So, Jay, where do you think we are as a team?
On the whole, I think we're all right. We have been a little bit behind in a couple of the sections. A couple of sections we got off to a really steady start, you know, where we were just ticking over. We know that the first hour, every single day of practice has been slow in whichever box we've been in. So we know there's no case to panic in that certainly first 90 minutes because it's been slow every day. So we've had probably in 3 sections a great start, really steady. The other 2 were struggling a little bit. However, at the time of speaking to you now at the halfway stage, those 2 lads in particular, Rob Wootton and Lee Kerry, have made changes and they're slowly getting back into it. So we're hoping that their ability, smoothness and just consistency is just going to help them just keep putting fish in the net and hopefully gain some ground on the ones that we're chasing.
So we know, keep calm, there's only halfway, still 2.5 hours to go. keep pulling fish in the net. I'm guessing the bank runners are just referring to everyone, spreading the information all of the time. Is it working?
Yeah, we're staying positive. That's our job. We don't want to pass anything on to the lads that's negative. That never works for anyone. Only the positives. So if any of the lads are finding out a particular hook bait that's good, a size feeder, a particular type of feeder, size of feeder, anything, any little key detail that we can pass on to any of the lads that are struggling, then obviously that's what we're doing. And just letting the lads know that there's no rush. We know if they can keep putting fish in the net, that's great. If a bonus comes along, then take it and hopefully make sure you land it.
Brilliant, Jay. Thanks ever so much.
Okay.
Of course, with this being a feeder world championships, one of the most important items of tackle is the feeder itself. Now, these anglers take a huge array of feeders with them, but we've narrowed it down to 4. And of course, Mick Viles is going to talk us through those 4, because what he doesn't know about feeders isn't worth knowing.
And I'll go through them as you would probably use them through the day. Initially, you've got a bait hook feeder, and we call it such because it's usually bigger than your average feeder, and that's to introduce bait at the start. Now, as it happens on this competition, it's not been a bombardment of bait. It's about building the swim. So we've kicked off your swim with that. And then also, if you want to sort of mid-match, if you feel you have to power up and introduce more bait into your peg, then a slightly bigger feeder like that one, any style like that, as long as it's slightly bigger and can carry particles like corn or chopped worms or hemp or chopped corn, things like that, and that gets you in there. Now, we've got 2 lines that we've actually chosen for the day one, which has kind of been just at the bottom of the first shelf and then out in more open water. And a feeder that's been quite effective is a bullet or rocket style feeder in a cage. So that's a wire cage with a lead sort of bullet on the bottom. And we think that it serves 2 purposes. One is they're nice and easy to cast, and it keeps a nice tight line so you're in full control of your feeder when you're casting. But also, we think it's pulling it through the water at a certain speed. And I think I spoke the other day about compressing your feeder and what's happening with that. And beyond our understanding sometimes, I think, we just have to experiment and find out what works, not why it works, is the fact that the way that's travelling through is attracting these native carassios through the water columns and down to the bottom. And that's been a brilliant feeder for that sort of longer line. And then you've got what you could call a traditional cage feeder, which is a side loading feeder with a weight on one side. And that's been very effective on the shorter line. But it's a bit shorter cast, so you've got a little bit more control. It's not going through as deeper water, you're not throwing it as far, therefore you can use a side loader because they're nice and easy to load and just nip it in, and that's a quick release. And we've been catching big carassios, and there's some odd carp, and they're actually showing in the first day, so that's really interesting. And Will Freeman, who's just down here, has been doing really well in the last part of the match on one of those. And then another feeder that's been part of the armoury and it's been put to good use by some other teams, it's not been at the front of our priorities, but it certainly has featured in the week's practice, is a modern style window feeder. Now, they call it a window because it has a side opening like that, and it's fully encased, lead bottom. And to explain that, really, basically that is encapsulating the bait, and that stops generally a lot of particles coming off. So it's quite the opposite to the cages, and it keeps the bait nice and tight and delivers it straight to the bottom. And that can be deadly when you've got fish that are kind of floating around up in the upper layers, and it'll pull them down to the bottom and nail your bait, concentrate the fish, and it can be quite effective. But a combination of all those is what you need on a day like today, because these fish don't just sit there waiting for you to catch them. You've got to draw them in, gather them, nail them to the bottom, and sometimes start the process time and time through the day. So feeder fishing looks very simple, but there's some intricacies that can only be achieved by moving up and down the scale with feeders like that.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Day one's just finished, and Steve Ringer has been the top point scorer for England with 34 kilos. That's over 80 pounds worth of fish. Steve, I'm guessing you've had a perfect match then?
I had a brilliant 4 hours, and then the wind got up. You can see behind us now there's a good ripple on. Wind got up, it started to tow a little bit, and I lost my fish. I'm not 100% certain why, but I lost my fish, and my stamp's been small. So I've had a great 4 hours, and I've not had a horrendous last hour, but I'm very critical. And like Felix has won the section with 39 kilo, and I think with a steady last hour I'd have been close.
Have you caught mainly carassios or some carp today as well?
I had 1 carp, maybe a kilo, a big carassio, maybe a kilo and a half, and then I think I've had 92 fish in total. So I was, with an hour to go, I think I had 81. So it shows you how poor the last hour's been.
And best method today, what was it, the long line, the short line?
I've caught on the long line, I've caught 25 metres, just been mega busy. I've just fished for bites, like fished 3 little bits of red worm, been really busy, like chucking every 90 seconds. And for 4 hours, it was the dream.
Let's see how tomorrow goes. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Day one's finished and we've come back to the hotel to have a bit more of an in-depth conversation with Dean Barlow. We know day one hasn't gone to plan. Too late now, that's happened. It's what's going to happen on day 2. Dean, give us a brief rundown of what's happened today, first of all.
We've practiced really well, Steve. We've caught lots of fish, but the quality fish that we was catching, the big carassio, just really haven't fed. They've seemed to have shut up shop, and a lot more carp have come into it. So, you know, you practice all week, you make your decisions, and it's not just caught us out, it's caught a few other teams out as well. So 50 points, not ideal, not one bit, but there's a lot of points to play for. So we're going to double down, double our efforts, and hopefully get on the podium.
Well, we've seen from the results that the 3 favourite teams for this competition were actually Hungary, Holland and ourselves, and it's been 7th, 8th and 9th overall. So something has drastically changed today in the river. Going on to tomorrow, what you can share with us now, what do you think you're going to change?
Well, you can't go all out all of a sudden. That's something as a last resort. So there's still fish to be caught on the method that we're using, but we're going to incorporate something else, just try and catch a few more of these quality fish that the carp that seem to have eluded us today. But like I say, it is only halfway, not ideal, but we'd go again tomorrow.
We've got a team, we were talking about it earlier and off camera, we know we've got a team, very strong team. If any team can do it, our team can do it.
Well, I think so. I still think I've got 6 of the best anglers in the world. With 21 peg sections, there's a lot of variables, different part, and it is river, different parts of the section fish better than others. So, you know, we go again and double our efforts.
It's overcast, it's mild, conditions really do look perfect. It's a new day, so a new start. Following the team meeting yesterday, there's been a change to the team. Mick Viles has come into the team and Rob Wootton is now the reserve. Today's team draw actually looks a more positive one than yesterday. In A section we have Adam Wakelin on peg 4. Now this on paper again is the right end of the section where some fish were caught yesterday. In B section we have Will Freeman. Now Will Freeman is on peg 21, which is an N peg, so hopefully the chance of some bonus fish. C section we have Mick Viles on peg 16. Unfortunately only an average peg, but knowing Mick, he'll get the best out of it. D section we have Lee Kerry on peg 14. Now Lee is slightly higher than where Will Freeman struggled from yesterday, but maybe not quite close enough to those bonus fish near the bridge. We'll have to see on that one. E section, peg 5, we have Steve Ringer. Now Steve Ringer has drawn next to Ramon Ansing. Now this is the beauty of international fishing. When you have 2 superstars next to each other, what a head-to-head battle this is going to be. Now with Rob Wootton being the reserve for today, he's agreed to give us an insight into the tactics that the team have put in place for day 2 of this Feeder World Championships. Now Rob has been chosen as the reserve today. There's been a team change, bringing Mick Viles into the team, and Rob's now reserve. Rob, how did that come about?
Well, I don't know whether you know, whether the guys and girls at home know, but there's a bit of an unwritten rule that if you don't feel you're in a medal position after day 1, so sort of 5th place and below as a team, and you've got a couple of guys with dodgy results. Lee and I had poor results yesterday. You drop the lowest point scorer to give the reserve from day 1 a chance to fish, because it's a lot of effort. It's a year, 18 months worth of effort thinking about this event. A lot of travelling, a lot of time goes into this. So to not give that reserve a chance to have a go on the second day, yeah, you want to give that the reserve a go. So Mick's having a go today. He's down in C section. Hopefully he catches a load of fish. My job for today is to sit behind Lee, help Lee out as much as I can. He's had a pretty good start, to be fair. Help Lee as much as I can. I've got the clipboard. You know all about the clipboard, don't you?
I do indeed.
So I've got the clipboard. I'll be writing down all fish numbers, keep my eye out for any bonus fish as well, and hopefully we can get a better result than yesterday.
So in truth, if we're being really truth, taking the gloves off, what happened yesterday? Was it a case we got tactics wrong, or did the other teams just have the tactics much better than we did?
For me, Steve, we've practiced all week. We've had 5 days of intense practice, and what tends to happen is you get into a lovely rhythm throughout the week, and you come up with a team tactic. Lee and I, it's no coincidence that Lee and I have been in the deepest area of the river, far down in A and B sections. The deepest area of the river is probably another 2 metres deeper than the rest of the river, and we've fished in a way that has caught us loads of fish on these shallower sections, but in the deeper sections it's just not worked, and people have overtook us with bigger fish. We've caught numbers of fish, we're still up there, but we've tend to have been catching smaller fish. Our tactics just weren't suitable for those slightly bigger fish that we needed to catch down there. Altering your tactics throughout the day, yeah, you could say, a lot of people as match anglers would say, well, you need to alter your tactics throughout the day and you need to get the best from your peg. The issue with that is you're formulating a team plan. You want to fish as a team. So altering your tactics and deviating too much from the team plan is also open to, you're opening a can of worms there, and it could go really, really, really awry if you're doing that. So we stuck to the team plan for as long as we could. Trouble is, too late then. Other teams have stole your fish, or other teams have got a head start, and we needed to suss out those deeper areas of the river a little bit earlier. I hate excuses, Steve, hate them. So I'm going to use one though. Peg was very rocky, very steep shelf, a lot of snags. Just wasn't fishing on a clean enough bottom. That area, apparently, speaking to one of the locals, it's not the greatest of areas where I've been. Fundamentally though, tactics for me and Lee just weren't quite right.
The team obviously weren't that far away, because if you look at the fish count, I think we actually lied second on fish count throughout of all of the teams. So yes, the stamp wasn't there, but at least it must be quite positive that we caught enough fish.
It is quite positive, but that tells you a big story, doesn't it? That we need to be more positive with our approach to try and catch bigger fish. We've almost fished in a way that's too safe, and you're fishing against really good anglers here now, that you cannot just go with half measures and fish in a nice, safe way and hope that you're going to get over the line. Sometimes you need to make a bit of a gamble. Sometimes you need to do something a little bit more creative and actually stack the odds in your favour. So you can see that our fish numbers were great, but when we're reeling in a small Carasio that's maybe 200, 300 grams, and the angler next to you is catching a Carasio that's nearly a kilo, or a carp that maybe could be 2 kilo, we need a lot of small Carasio to overtake those bigger fish. And a lot of the other teams, they've gone in a more cavalier approach. Doesn't mean that they've gone totally off plan with their tactics, but they're doing it in a different way. They've got very similar baits to us, very similar baits. Few key changes. I've had a walk along the bait check today. It's given me a really good chance to see what the other teams are doing, and I could spot it straight away. When I'm watching them fish, once you're not fishing, I can see it. I've sat behind one of the guys today for 10 minutes maximum.
Become obvious.
Straight away, seen it straight away. I can see now, and I can see why they've caught these bigger fish, and we've caught these slightly smaller fish.
So come on then, what is the biggest change that the England team have done today?
Right, so bigger change is we've been fishing in a way that attracts a lot of fish into our peg, whereas we've been using cage feeders, very wide open cage feeders. Our mix has been very heavy, but when we put it in the feeder, we're literally almost caressing it into the feeder. So when it goes into the water, it gets to sort of like half depth, or 3 foot off the bottom, 4 foot off the bottom, and it's almost all out of the feeder by the time it gets to the bottom, which means we've got a lovely cascade of bait. Great for attracting fish. It's been great in practice, because the fish, when you fish with a feeder where you ram the bait in and you fish it where the feeder bombs to the bottom, if you get anything, you get a line bite around your feeder, because it's nudging your feeder because the bait's not escaped. That has been the way though to attract those better fish. Sit there for a bit longer, ignore the line bites, wait, and then you eventually get your bite from a bigger fish. Whereas we've been sort of looking for numbers, trying to catch more and more fish, and without realising, it's made our peg worse because we've got bits of bait floating around in the upper layers. Yesterday was a really hot, still sunny day. The fish wanted to be up there anyway, and we were giving them a reason to stay up there rather than bombing everything down. That's been the big problem.
Patience has been the name of the game. I get it, totally. Well, thanks ever so much for that, Rob. That's been very insightful. I'll let you get back to Lee.
Cheers, mate.
That's it for another year. The final hooter has just sounded, so we've taken the opportunity before the scales have come just to have a chat with Will Freeman, who's been on the end peg in section B today, 21. Will, I know it's gone very well towards the end. How's the whole match gone for you?
Yeah, a bit of a roller coaster to say the least. Obviously, yesterday we suffered from the same old thing. Until you've got continentals throwing in different mixes each side of you and feeding it differently, you never quite know if you're right. I mean, our weights have been really good all week. We've adjusted quite a lot for today. Conditions have been slightly different, so that's helped as well. And caught a few fish. I've actually been on the same peg that I practiced on. So I knew there was a few carp here, chance of a few carp, and that's what I've had to fish for at the end. So I've come on a slightly shorter line, fish sticky mag, double cast, so I can putting the clip on, cast out, empty the feeder, cast on top, take the clip off, and I've had probably a dozen carp, virtually 8 chucks at the end. So
we knew you were catching because as we drove past with that half an hour, we could see there was a big crowd behind you, so we knew it was going well, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
You say you changed to sticky mag on that inside line?
Yeah, sticky mag and a bit of liquidised corn as well. And the trouble with the carp here, I mean, some of them aren't that big, but they're not common or mirror carp like what we have back home. They're proper wild carp. So the nearest thing to describe it is hooking a 10-pounder in the tail, because it's relentlessly boring away from you all the time. So it's very difficult to get them in quick, very difficult to land them all. So I was quite pleased with that. Unfortunately, I hooked one with 90 seconds to go, which you saw me, that didn't go very well on limited time. But other than that, I've not lost any fish at all. So I'm happy with that. But it's just the middle bit had a nice run of big Carrassios, but then I hooked another carp on my long line and couldn't keep the Carrassios coming. So that's been a problem throughout our week. If you spend a little bit of time playing a carp and you're not baiting up on a regular basis, you're almost starting your swim from scratch again. So I was quite pleased to have a bit of a late comeback. So we'll see how it's gone. I mean, the size of fish has been all over the place today. I've not had a big fish count, but Jamie's telling me everybody's down on fish counts today. So we'll see what happens.
We know in your section you have Germany in your section, Felix Schulman.
Yes.
He's got some carp. I think you're going to be pushing at least definitely a top 6 place, if not a top 3 place today.
Yeah, which at the middle stages that wasn't looking great, but we've had to gamble quite a lot today to push for a really low score. The nature of the venue means you're going to get a few blowouts from some of the teams, so a mega low score today would have still seen us in the medals.
Awesome. Well, I know the scales are on the way up now. I can see them just over the other side of the hill. So we'll wrap up, we'll let you get packed up, and hopefully you've done enough.
Thanks very much.
When the scales come round, it's always exciting in match fishing, but even more so on the last day of a World Championships. The anticipation is enormous. Despite the first day not being England's best, in terms of weight and the position that England found themselves in, the changes put in for the second day had been a big success, and it was clear that England had fared much better today. At this stage it was clear that we had a team that had fished not just well over the final 2 days, but also over the practice days. And that team was Ireland, and we couldn't be more happy for them.
2, 1!
They'd proved in practice that they'd caught plenty of fish, and come the 2 match days, they had tactics perfect. I'm here with part of the winning Ireland team. Brenton Sweeney, the Irish manager. Fantastic. What does it mean to yourself and the country winning gold in the Feeder World Championship?
It's just unbelievable. I just can't take it in. It's our first team medal ever at any discipline in the world, and competitions are probably going for the last 50 years. But to win, all we want to do is win a medal. The team has been gathering up to it, but today it's just unbelievable. I just can't take it in.
It's not been simple. We know you've been hit with the sickness bug.
Yeah.
I know practicing's gone well. Obviously, you must have had something sorted.
Yeah, we more or less eliminated a lot of stuff, you know, so it was, you know, on Thursday we eliminated something we thought that would do well, quite negative, but we knew in the end we had to go very, very positive and build your swim up as the day went on. Start negative and keep building, and especially in the third and fourth hour, it was very important to build. Put plenty of chop worm in and whizzed up corn.
Well, it's certainly worth a treat, and if that isn't enough, Ireland only have the individual champion as well, Michael Butchwalder. Michael, what does it mean?
Wow, it's like Brenton just said, really. I can't put into words at the moment. It's kind of not sunk in yet. I've won some big things in fishing, but this sort of tops it all by a long way. The team's done fantastic this week. I've been sick for the last 3 days, like bedridden. And James Place, who's come to help me, has been packing up for me. James Doherty's been in bed 2 or 3 days. I know a lot of teams called it start of the week and that, but we just, luckily the Irish called it for the weekend. So we've literally been stuck really, but we've got through it. We've worked out a lot of things, and we've, like Brenton just said, we're ultra positive. Like I fished a 5-hole and 6-hole feeder virtually all day today. When it went a bit iffy, I put a bait up on, and I fished with a bait up on, and like single maggot on a size 10 to 0.22, and single bit and worm, and it's just ridiculous really.
That's proper tackle. You really were taking no prisoners.
Oh yeah, because the bite, so when you chuck it in and the bite hits the bottom, when the fish are in your peg and you've got the feeding right, it hits the bottom, and before you can even tighten up, it's off. And it just shows they're coming into your peg and eating everything that's there, and that's why almost like not hitting your clip properly, like badoosh. It's just a tactic we worked out in the week and that. So we've done a fantastic job. I couldn't be more proud of the guys. And to be fair, we've come away as a team that we're not sponsored by anybody. This is a totally self-funded trip by the Irish lads. They've all put the hand in their pocket. Census UK through Roddy Scott and Sean Ashby have sponsored us with ground bait at like trade price and that. But the rest of the trip is totally covered by the guys. So to be double world champions and being self-funded and probably being one of the only teams here that's not completely sponsored is a massive achievement. I think something we should hold our heads up very high with.
Well, it's been a fantastic individual performance, a fantastic team performance, and seriously guys, well done. Team Ireland.
Thank you.
Good.
So there we have it. Another World Championships over and a fantastic result for the Irish. The individual podium positions included gold medalist Michael Butchwalder from Ireland, silver medalist from Lithuania Arūnas Mizukavicius, and the bronze medal to the Netherlands with Ramon Ansing. With England scoring a fantastic 21 points on day 2, with section wins from Adam Wakelin and Will Freeman. This helped the team to move up the leaderboard and finish in 5th position. And the team positions were gold medalists Ireland, silver medalists Lithuania, and the bronze medalists Germany. This moment, though, belongs entirely to the Irish. So a huge congratulations from the whole of the England camp and everyone at Drennan.